What will we find in today's Inkblot? So today I want to take my time and just be with the work for a little while. Taking my time might mean working for 5 minutes, or it might be an hour. But I want to do this because the last random ink drawing I did, which turned out fine in the end, it was rushed. That was the point of it. I wanted to see if I could do it on a tight schedule. I wanted to push myself in that direction because, quite frankly, I didn't have a lot of time that day. But it felt a little bit off. It felt a little bit wrong. And that doesn't mean I won't do it again, because time is what time is, and we have what time we have. But it felt like I was going back to the grind of doing daily ink monsters and working half of them up in a state of panic over, oh, I haven't done any today. And I want to avoid that. So instead, I want to see what happens when I have all the time in the world. So I don't have to do anything here. And just let it sit. The first problem I'm noticing is that I'm seeing a lot of different things in this Inkblot, but I'm not really seeing anything I want to draw. That's a problem. And it's early in the morning. I've just had my breakfast and a cup of coffee and a tiny bout of morning exercise. And I'm struggling with getting the creative juices flowing, and I'm looking at this and I'm not seeing anything I want to draw. And I don't know why. Like I'm seeing a lot of KKK hoods here. I don't want to draw that. I'm seeing potentially sort of a robot skull here. I don't want to draw that. That's okay. It's all okay. That's this is sort of like mindfulness meditation. You have to remind yourself that it's not about sitting there and blocking all thoughts, but rather rather when the thoughts enter your brain, reminding yourself that it's okay. Just watch the thought appear and disappear, and that's all right. And now, in that spirit, I'm going to just start watching lines appear, not disappear. And just be with the lines, play around with the textures, with the shapes. See if anything pops up. and then just greet it. Ooh. Okay. So suddenly I'm sort of seeing a window. Okay. And some weird architecture, maybe some roof tiles. So this might be strange house, which means I have to start thinking about perspective. And that is all well and good, because currently I'm working on writing and filming the parts of my online course called Mastering Ink Through Negative Space about perspective. So right besides me, I have this little cheat sheet for my lesson about horizons. So I've been thinking a lot about perspective and how to apply perspective in these types of random ink drawings. And that was when I did daily ink monsters, that not just the daily ink monsters, all through the last multiple years of drawing, where I've drawn straight with a brush, I have been struggling with finding that my some of my technical skills, especially when it comes to things like perspective drawing, have started to decline, because if you don't use it, you start losing it. It's not like riding a bike. It is far more complicated than riding a bike in the sense and yeah, I've been gradually, as I'm not drawing constructing the anatomy of the characters by penciling and measuring and all of that, as I've not been doing the perspective, the horizon lines and the vanishing points, and setting up a perspective grid and all of that, I have slowly been losing some of those skills. And when I did daily ink monsters, there was seldom time to sit down and focus on those types of skills. And not that I'm going to draw all that much of a perspective here at all. Hopefully just hint at the perspective. But doing these twice a week and having much less of a job editing them means that I can, when I want, go all out and try to do some of this work that's harder to do with a brush. Now, brushes are not made ooh, now I know. Or do I? Ooh, I have to think about this. Should this be what's it called? A brownstone house? Ooh, it's difficult. I'm thinking that this is probably something akin to one of the houses in H.P. Lovecraft, like the Dreams in the Witch House or something like that. A nightmare house of sorts. But it can be a brownstone, it can be a tree house, wooden house, not a tree house, it could be it could be Baba Yaga's hut, but no, we don't have really room for the chicken feet. Do we have room for the chicken feet? No, with Baba Yaga's hut, I would want it to be something more East European. And now it is actually, it's a little bit more pointy, but it is more reminiscent of the types of houses I grew up around in Bergen. And it actually reminds me of a house I lived in a road called Sandviksveien, the Sandy Bay Road, which is one of the main streets in one of the main neighborhoods here in Bergen. It's a very old neighborhood filled with old wooden houses and then also old brick, painted brick apartment blocks. These kind of workers' apartment blocks from these typical city blocks from around the turn of the century. Very nice old painted brick houses. And where we lived, it was while the address was Sandviksveien, so it was the main road. The entrance was from an alley from a parallel street. And it was, you went into this alley between these two painted brick houses. leads to city blocks. And then in between the city blocks, you got to a little yard. And in that yard, you had this old tree wooden house. And we lived there. We moved around a lot when I was young. My mother was a student at the time and became an art historian. My father was an artist, poor, unemployed artist. We moved around quite a lot. But this wooden house, I guess I must have been 4 or 5 years old when we lived there. And I've always had these distinct memories that there were these hidden latches in the floor and under the kitchen sink and stuff like that, that went to underground passageways between the rooms. And I've always remembered this so clearly. And then one time I asked my mother about it, and no, of course there weren't. That was all my imagination. But I very strongly imagined these hidden passageways. And crawling through them. Another memory I have, so I have two very distinct toaster incidents from my childhood. One was when a few years before, when I was a very little baby, 3 years old, I found out that I loved this thing called knäckebröd, which is a very hard bread thing. It's more like a hard biscuit, but it's called knäckebröd. It's a breaking bread. So it's it has been. It's kind of like only the hard crust of a bread, but it's nice and airy and it crunches and it's very. I love it, and I got the idea that what would make this even better would be to put it in a toaster and make it a toasted knäckebröd, because toast was great. So I put the knäckebröd in the toaster, and about a minute after, flames stood up the toaster, because don't put knäckebröd in the toaster. So I learned that at a young age. And then a few years later, when we had moved to this house in Sandviksvägen, I had learned that you should not put the bread, the knäckebröd, in the toaster. Of course, I would never do that again. But I liked my toast really crisp, a little bit burnt. And then one day I toasted my bread and I put some butter on it, and I decided, no, it's not toasted enough. And I put it back in the toaster and adding fuel to the fire, adding butter to the fire. Both times I managed to not start a fire and burn any houses or neighborhoods down, but that was due to adults around me being quick-feeted, I guess. Okay. So I'm liking that it is wonky and peculiar, but I want to ground it somehow, which means it has to somehow I would like to hint at something underneath the house. So we had a yard outside, and maybe we didn't cut the grass often enough. I have to. This is sort of not high level, but there is a level of thinking here. I have to keep in mind, like if I want, let's say, I want some a fence, a picket fence in black here. That's okay. That's not too bad. Okay. It's got a little bit of a perspective shift from the house, but that's okay because it's a crooked picket fence and it's got this gate. The gate is open. Again, that's okay. Okay. But I want it to no, that's okay. I don't need it to. I thought I would have yeah, I could have the gate here, so on the other side, then outside of that I can have this post box, and we're all working in a dream logic here, so nothing has to be quite correct, but still it can't be too incorrect either. Something like this, okay? Then we continue on the grass here, and we need to have a little bit of the grass behind the fence, because even though we're working in a dream logic, we have to create a sense of space, okay? So right now I'm sort of starting to imagine the whole thing, and because it is going to be so light here, I will want to make it night up here and have some silhouettes, some negative silhouettes. But we need to make the door like this, and the door leads to these stairs, which aren't really stairs, they're just we make it a little bit longer, and it's wonky like that. So then the stairs lead to this path made out of these stones. With these negative space. Okay, not perfect, not perfect. I'm not terribly happy with this part now, but we'll get it to work. Again, so it's gone from dreams in the witch house to dreams of Sandviken. And here is where I want the hint of an underground thing to be, so that there is something underneath the house. The house is almost floating. And same here. Now it's getting somewhere weird, but somewhere weird, but somewhere weird, but somewhere. That's I lost the melody on that, sort of. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue. Okay. And now I've forgotten one of the things that I knew I wanted. I wanted to have a figure, maybe me as a kid, walking into that space. But I can't do that now. Or can I? Yeah, maybe I can. And one of the things I'm not doing is that I'm not turning to that side to look at how long I've recorded, because I don't want to rush it today. So I can take my time. Does that mean we'll take a lot of time. Probably not, because I'm still me. Have this figure that looks a little bit apprehensive walking in. And then ground it with some shadow. And some shadows down stairs as well. Is it walking in or walking out? That could have been clearer here. And I want more darkness around the door. Kind of like the darkness here. And now, for some strange reason, things are looking a lot freakier. None of the parts are quite fitting together. And that's part of what makes it potentially work. That it's not a real space, it is this strange space, this dream space, where things aren't quite. Okay. I need probably to go in with some white ink here, or I can just make a bigger shadow there, so there is actually some shadow in the house as well. Doesn't look good. That's why we have white. And we can fill these a little bit, and then we can create these universal signs of windows. Okay. Again, it's looking weird and wonky, and I'm deliberately using the brush in a way that's a little bit hard, and yeah. Okay. Now I need to, I'm thinking whether or not this actually should be in color, and we might sort of lift it up by using color on it, or if it's better if I leave it as black and white. But I'll make that decision once I have put in the black here. And I know I will use some white ink on, or white gouache on top here. So I will have to let that black dry a bit. Okay. Yeah, I'll switch to a less fucked up brush for this part, just so it's easier to make the right shapes. And I'm deliberately leaving a lot of the negative space shapes wobbly, like this chimney. It's a wobbly chimney. Wobbly chimney. That's okay. That's what it's meant to be. Same with these shapes here. They are wobbly shapes. They are house-like shapes, but not house shapes. That's sort of important here, I think. Okay, this looks pretty decent. So, okay, what I can do is, I think I will do this. Make this all red, and make a light blue for the windows. And add some white highlights in there. I think I'll do that. Oh, this becomes so scary because now I can mess it up in so many ways. Is this water somewhat clean? Yes, it is somewhat clean. Okay. So we'll dip the brush in water, then in there, and that is way too blue. But this is the blue we'll use here. Okay. This will change, but it's looking okay. Have I just messed up everything? Maybe, maybe. Does that matter? No, not really. I want to place some thicker blue here because I know I'm going to go over it with white. And then some very thin blue here and some thin blue there. Okay. Now we will find the red. This is scary as hell because I may have just messed up the whole image. It would have been good in black and white. I'm not saying that. But maybe it can be something else in red. Okay. Why do I do these things to myself? Why do I keep making life hard for myself? Not life, this is art, and that's the point, to make it hard for yourself, to take bold decisions and to have to live with them. Now this red is feels way too light. And we can do that. It would be worse if it felt way too... Ooh. There's something here. Okay. There's something here. There is definitely something. Jesus, what? No. Kim, calm down, Kim. It's okay. If I end up messing this up, all that means is that I've ended up messing one drawing up. Nothing more. Okay? Nothing more. Okay. So, first of all, as a whole, this isn't too bad. I do want to mix a bit of the red and the black for a bit more shade to put in different spots to add to the three-dimensionality of this thing. Okay, so these kind of things work somewhat. Okay, that's okay still. We'll probably go in with even darker. Okay. Now we're hoping that it has dried enough here in the blue. And I think we'll go in with a white gouache. We could, instead of the white gouache, we could use a Posca marker. But I'm feeling that the gouache will be closer to the feeling of this artwork. I'll start here. Just make these windows clearer, brighter, make it stand out, and also pick up some of the blue and the red through. Okay? Like this. And the very uneven size of the windows. That's okay. Again, it's a sort of a dream logic here that we're aiming for. And hopefully tiny bit of the black and the blue and the red will shine through and make these interesting. We're trying to make the shapes interesting. They're really harsh. It's really harsh contrast here between the reds and yeah. So we need to fix this window as well. Again, we keep it light and wonky. And I want just a dazzle of like moonlight glitters on here and silhouetted shapes. Just add a tiny bit of the white into the rest. Okay. And then it is actually starting to come together now. I will probably go over with some more darkness for the top of the house. To shape it slightly more. I think we are getting somewhere. So yeah, not have the darkness be complete, but we want to shape it slightly more. And the paper is not quite thick enough for this level of fluid, so it's wobbling quite a lot, but that's okay because when it's dry, we'll put it under pressure and we'll get a lot of those wobbles out. This I'm working on bamboo paper from Clairefontaine, and it's actually very good with liquid. That's one of the reasons why I like it. It's not too thick, so I would perhaps want to do a piece like this on thicker paper, but it is what it is. I think a little bit too much of the blue came through here, so I'll just pile on with the white, same here, with all of these, do an added layer of white, like those. Okay. And maybe yeah, actually this one, maybe I should have used this from the beginning, the Posca, to make sort of a more architectural feeling to things. Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling this. I think I'm feeling this. And maybe I should see if I have some red Posca marker as well. But no, I think we'll make do with this. Okay, where is my mind? Where is my mind? My mind is at doing a tiny bit of shadow work here. Just tiny bit of some weird, wonky house. Okay. Uh, uh, um. And some stars. I think I'm done. I'm sort of like, maybe I should have not done the colors, and maybe I should have done the colors, and I'm not certain yet, and that doesn't really matter because I did the colors. But I'm very excited to see how it will feel. Ooh, the tape took off a little bit of the surface of the paper here. Tends not to do that with this paper, but maybe it's a bit of a humid day and the paper doesn't like humid days. So maybe that's it. This is a very weird house. I'm seeing it now. And we have been drawing for an hour, so that's expected, I guess. We'll call this one Home. And it is random ink drawing number 9. I'm signing it. And I'm done. Yeah, so I the ink course I'm working on, called Mastering Ink Through Negative Space, is very soon to launch. There's a waiting list you can sign up for and get percentages. Apart from that, all of this stuff will eventually be available at denungeherholm.com, at my web store. So if you want to support art, if you want to support content that's not retention edited and made with fucking AI, then buy some art or sign up for the course, or sign up for Patreon. Do something to support the art you love. If that's art is me, then that's great. If not, support some other real artist. Real art, physical, hand-crafted, human mind-crafted art. Whether it can be digital, it can be visual art, it can be music, it can be poetry and storytelling, theater, it can be anything, but it is under attack from evil society, societal structure, society might not be evil, but structure is definitely destructive and wants to kill creativity and repackage it as content and sell it as a luxury item. And that's not acceptable. So support art. I'll be back with more random ink drawings in a few days.